Welcome back to Learn with Roblox. In today's video, we're going to talk about the powers of I, where I is the imaginary number. Let's talk about what I is in the first place. I is just defined as the square root of -1. Now, how can we find the other powers of I beyond this? Well, I squared is just equal to the square root of -1 squared. And if you do that, the square and the square root cancel, and you're left with I squared is equal to -1. What about I to the third power? How can I compute that? Well, I'm going to use the property of exponents, and it goes like this. If you have x to the a power times x to the b power, that equals x to the a plus b. So if I have x to the third power over here, I can just split a and b as 1 and 2. So x to the first times x to the second equals x to the third. Let me try to do a similar thing up here now. Oops. So I have I to the third, and 3 is equal to 2 plus 1. So I'm going to say this is I squared times I. Well, what do we know? We know that I squared is just -1. And -1 times I is just -I. And then what about I to the fourth power? Well, I can just write that as I squared times I squared, because 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Well, we know I squared is -1. So that means I'll have -1 times -1. And that's just equal to 1. So I to the fourth power is equal to 1. Let's keep going and see if a pattern emerges. If I have I to the fifth power, that's just equal to I times I to the fourth, because 5 is equal to 1 plus 5. And if I to the fourth is 1, this is just I times 1. Anything times 1 is itself. So I to the fifth power is just equal to I. Let's keep going. I to the sixth power is just I to the fourth times I to the second, because 4 plus 2 equals 6. I to the fourth is 1, so we're just left with this is equal to I squared. And I squared is just -1. Let's keep going. I to the seventh equals I to the third times I to the fourth. Well, we know I to the fourth is 1, and I to the third is just -I. -I times 1 is just -I. And then finally, oops, I keep drawing on the side here. We have I to the eighth power, and that's equal to I to the fourth times I to the fourth, because 4 plus 4 equals 8. And we know I to the fourth is just 1. So I to the 8 just equal to 1 times 1. So I to the 8th is just 1. So I want you to notice something. Notice how every 4 powers, from I to the first from I to the 5, or I to the second to I to the 6th, or from I to the third to I to the 7th, or from I to the 4th to I to the 8th. Notice how we repeat every 4 powers of I. Let's see if we can turn this into a trick to allow us to find higher powers of I. We know that the powers of I repeat every 4 powers, so let's use this trick to find any power of I. What you want to do is first take your power and divide it by 4. If you get that the number was divisible, meaning that you don't have any decimal fraction at the end, then this means that your power is just equal to 1. So for example, I to the 12th power is just equal to 1, because 12 is divisible by 4. However, if you get a remainder of 1, then this means that your answer is equal to I. As an example, I to the 13th is equal to I, because 13 divided by 4 yields a remainder of 1. If you get that your remainder is 2, this means your answer is equal to I squared, which is equal to -1. As another example, I to the 14th is equal to -1, because 14 divided by 4 yields a remainder of 2. And finally, the only other remainder you get is a remainder of 3. So if that's what you get, your power is just equal to I to the third power, which is equal to -I. And if we have I to the 15th now, well, 15 divided by 4 yields a remainder of 3, so it's equal to -I. How can you find what the remainder is if you do this on a calculator? Well, if you divide the numbers on a calculator and you get a number that ends in 0.25, this means you have a remainder I'll just write that as r of 1, a remainder of 1. And this is just equal to I. If you do the math and you get that the answer ends in 0.5 when you divide the power by 4, that means you have a remainder of 2. And that's just equal to minus 1. And if you divide the power by 4 and you get the answer ends in 0.75, this is just a remainder of 3. And we know that's equal to I to the cubed, which is just equal to minus I. Let's use this to try a few problems now. Let's try this example out now. I have I to the 375th power. What does that equal to? Well, first thing you can do is just 375 divided by 4. And if you do that, you'll get this is equal to 93.75. That ends in 0.75, which means we have a remainder of 3. And the remainder of 3 just means that this is equal to I to the third power, which is equal to negative I. So I to the 375th power is just equal to negative I. But what if you don't have a calculator? How can you do this without a calculator? Well, what you need to do is find a power of I that's really close to 375, and that is divisible by 4, then build your way up to 375. First thing I'm going to do is, I know I to the 300 is divisible by 4 because any multiple of 4 or any multiple of 100 is divisible by 4. Let's keep going, because that's still quite far from 375. Well, I know that 4 times 15 is just equal to 60. So I'm just going to add 60 to this, 360. I know that this is also divisible by 4. And just keep adding 4 until you get really close to 375. Well, I can do 364. Then I can do 368. And then I can do 372. And that's pretty close to 375. So notice, if I just multiply this whole thing by I to the third power, this is just equal to I to the 375. Oops. And this is the case because 372 plus 3 is equal to 375. And then what do we know about this? We know that I to the 372 is just equal to I to the fourth power because it's divisible by 4. And that's just equal to 1. So we have 1 times I to the third power is equal to I to the 375. So in other words, we have this is equal to I to the third, which is equal to minus I. So that's how you can do that problem even if you don't have a calculator on hand. Let's try the next one out. Let's try finding I to the 492 power. To do this, just do 492 divided by 4. And do that on a calculator, you get this is equal to 123. So notice how there's no decimal after that. This means that 492 is divisible by 4. If your power is divisible by 4, this means that it's just equal to I to the fourth, which is just equal to 1. But how can you do that without a calculator? Let's say you don't have a calculator on hand. Here's how you can find this. I'm going to start at I to the 500th power because any multiple of 100 is divisible by 4. And if we take away multiples of 4 from a number that's divisible by 4, it is still divisible by 4. So notice what happens if I subtract 4 2 times. I get I to the 492 because 500 minus 4 is 492. And this is still divisible by 4 because we took a number that was already divisible by 4 and just took away multiples of 4. So this means this is just equal to I to the fourth, which equals 1. Let's go to the next one. Let's try to find I to the 569th power. To do that, 569 divided by 4 on a calculator will get you 142.25. Notice how we have 0.25 in our answer. That means we have a remainder of 1. If you have a remainder of 1, that means your answer is just I to the first power. And I to the first power is just I. So that's your answer to I to the 569th power. let's do this without a calculator as well. To do that, I'll start at I to the 500 and try to add multiples of 4 to get close to 569. I know 60 is divisible by 4, so I'm going to add that to this. So now I have I to the 560 power. Let's add 8 to this, because 8 is divisible by 4 as well. So I'll have I to the 568th power. And notice, if I just multiply this by I, I'll have 569 as my power. And I to the 568th is just equal to 1, because any power that's divisible by 4 leads to 1. And 1 times I is just I. So that's how you can do it without a calculator. Let's go to the next one. To find I to the 38th power, just do 38 divided by 4. And that's just equal to 9.5. Since this ends in 0.5, this means that 38 has a remainder of 2 when we divide by 4. A remainder of 2 means that your answer is just I to the 2nd power. And that's just equal to -1. To do this without a calculator, you can just realize that I to the 38th is just equal to I to the 36 times I to the 2nd power. And I to the 36th is just 1, because 36 is divisible by 4. So I to the 38th equals 1 times I squared. That means it's I squared, which is just -1. Let's move on to our final problem of the day. This is the problem in the thumbnail. If we have I to the 9957th power, the way to find what that is just simply divide it by 4. Or the power by 4. If you do that, you get 2849.25. And notice that we end in 0.25. This means we have a remainder of 1 when we divide by 4. Remember that a remainder of 1 just means that our answer is just I to the 1st power, which is just equal to I. So this massive power is simply equal to I. How can you do that without a calculator though? Let's try this. I'm going to start at I to the 9900 power. This is divisible by 4 because this number ends in 2 zeros. If a number ends in 2 zeros, it's divisible by 4. Then I'm going to add 60 to it, because 60 is divisible by 4. But now I've gone above 9957. So let me just subtract 4. If I do that, I've got 9956 as my power. And notice, if I just multiply that by I to the 1st power, I'm going to have I to the 9957th power. I know that all of this is just divisible by 4. So it just becomes 1. And then 1 times I to the 1st power is simply I. So that's how you can do that without a calculator. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Thanks for watching today.